Welcome back to International Finance. I'm Andy Kim, your Dr. Finance. As we finish the discussion of Black-Scholes option pricing, I want to draw some attention to your careers in financial mathematics or financial engineering. There may be some of you who are interested in this kind of stuff. As you went through this mathematical notation, some of you may feel, oh, I thought I'm not a math guy, perhaps because unfortunately my math teacher in finance, in high school sucked, or middle school, right, 중학교. That's where you determine yourself as a 문과생 or 이과생 or non-engineer versus engineers, right? Maybe you are wrongly classified, type 1 error, type 2 error kind of things, right? Wrongly classified as non-engineers, but as it turns out, math is more fun than I previously thought. I mean, that's me actually. Previously I thought in my high school days, I thought, if you go to engineering department, it's no fun job over there. My math teachers were like always dull, and then they were beating like crazy for whatever perverse reason. Then I thought like, going into non-engineering, like 문과, I may become lawyer, and then I will be the, doing business and become a big political figure or business figure that I can influence a lot to a lot of people. Whereas engineering, I will do nothing but just stuck in the in a laboratory or something like that. Very dull job, dull life, which turns out to be totally wrong, right? I realize these days, right? Engineering professors have a lot fun, right? My friend who majored in electrical engineering and electronic engineering, the elementary school buddy, right? He's now the chief scientist in Samsung Electronics, Samsung chief scientist, 위구현, right? Is coming up to the newspaper, and then a very famous guy because he was a Harvard engineering professor, right? I never knew my friend would become like that, and then having a lot of fun over there. So it can be anywhere, right? And then engineering, right? Math is not that terribly bad, right? Something understandable if you meet a nice professor, right? It's fun as well, okay? The thing is, do I have to spend yourself, right? Do I have to spend X more years, N more number of years studying that kind of stuff, right? Mastering financial mathematics. And I say, not really. Do you have to directly go to graduate school after this undergraduate program, right? Then I say, no. You first have to get work experience in the real world, right? Why? Because you want to get a sense of what the real world is like as a 정규직, like permanent position, not internship position. Internship, you don't get any experience there. It's like not that much, just to get a smell of what it is like over there. But get a permanent position and then get some responsibility and taking some risk, and that there could be some consequences of good or bad. Go through all those kinds of ups and downs, couple of years, and then you will have a much better sense of what the real world is like. Then you will feel whether you want to come back to this academia and then get some more graduate studies versus not. That's the place, that's the time you have to come back, right? You want to come back if you really want. Chances are you will feel you will feel that I don't need graduate degree. I can earn millions of billions of dollars without such trainings, right? I became a billionaire within a couple of years. That can happen, right? And then while you are young, you are more risk-taking, risk-loving. That's the chance where you can experience those, exciting stuff, right? Some people become billionaire if they start their early ages, as early as possible, right? Before you get older. As you get older, like 30 years, right, old or more, your testosterone level shrinks down like crazy, exponentially. That's medical research. I'm not making up my story. So less testosterone, less risk taking. Okay, hormone determines your risk aversion, and then you get married, and then have children. You get less risk taking. And the 50 years old like me, a lot more risk averse, right? So do it when you can, okay? Take it when you can. That's my message. And then if you want to go into that data analytics part or financial engineering kind of stuff, there's some confusion you may have, because financial engineering, the sexy buzzword, right, used to be a buzzword in 20 years ago. 20 years ago, I want to draw some attention to these series of books by Paul Wilmot. Okay, Paul Wilmot on quantitative finance, like this, has been a very sexy book for introductory, for financial engineering, financial mathematics, if you're interested in Black-Scholes formula, how is it derived, how you simulate it, all these kind of things. The nice thing about it is he is a nice storyteller, and then he's a nice, wonderful illustrator, great in drawing pictures. So that cartoon pictures over here. So it makes all those hard stuff approachable, much more approachable. So this is a nice introductory material for you guys. Used to be a bestseller. Decades ago it was published. And then together with it, there was a huge bubble associated with the development of financial engineering, right? What was that? It was not just about the FX derivative like this, put option, call option. No, not that. That was a plain vanilla thing. They developed something called the credit derivatives, like credit default swap. You know about this story, right? Credit default swap. And then they developed complicated securities like CDO, collateralized debt obligation, right? Packaging it, all different loan obligation into securities, and then selling it to other people, other clients, right? There was a lot of problems associated with it. So that was, how to value this, credit derivatives. I don't know. And then financial engineers, supposedly they know how to do it. But CDOs, how to value it? Supposedly we thought they know how to do it. They always said that they can value it. Those snobbish mathematicians, right? I am superior, Übermenschen, right? Übermenschen, like I'm a superhuman being, right? As if they are the avengers of the world, right? Or the savior of the life. Mathematicians, have this kind of stereotype about themselves, right? If you watch the movie Beautiful Mind, you see Princeton mathematics professor lecturing to their undergraduate students. Mathematicians rule the world. The world is just behaving as mathematical rule is just prevailing. We are just a realization of one of those mathematical rules, right? Very arrogant, very snobbish. And then the thing is, they are bringing those imposition to finance world, and then with this money, right, making you believe that it is mathematical power is really, really ruling the the money world, essentially the human world, right, like that. So everybody was like, oh, math and money going together, sexy, right? That was their approach. And then, as it turns out, CDO valuation, nobody was able to value how to do it, right? But still, they packaged it and sold it expensively. Goldman Sachs was, at one point, they sold $600 million worth of CDO transaction, packaged and sold it to their clients. And then after selling it, their internal mail said what? Boy, that Timberwolf deal was one shitty deal, right? That was their internal mail, right? That was their ethical standard. Criticized a lot during that hearings, U.S. Senate hearing. You Google search it and YouTube search it. Timberwolf, Goldman Sachs, and then Carl Levin, the U.S. Senate member, interrogating this, questioning these Goldman Sachs bankers, right? A lot of things to tell about that, right? So the complicated transactions, mathematicians, supposedly they were able to value it, but they were not able to do it, right? A lot of snake oil sales was going on in the name of mathematics and engineering. Okay? So every now and then, this kind of snake oil sales comes and goes, comes and goes. People keep on buying drugs. People keep on being deceived by this drug salesman. Okay? 약 팔아요. Okay, somebody's 약 팔아. 약 팔아 is selling snake oil kind of things, right? Somebody is selling those snake oils in the form of the most lofty thing that you dream of, right? The most lofty thing that you are, things like, oh, I don't know about those stuff. A sexy thing, only if I knew, right? Respectable thing. Turns out that's the snake oil, okay? People keep on buying drugs. And the financial market, accordingly, we keep on having bubbles and crashes, bubbles and crashes. Bubbles caused by those snake oil salesmen. People keep on making same mistakes. And that, right, I want to warn you, okay, I want to warn you that financial engineering 2 decades ago, right, was building block is this one, Black-Scholes formula. I'm not criticizing Black-Scholes formula is, the culprit of it, but people were using that and then extending it far more. And then for those traditional sense of financial engineering, if you are so much into it, you can spend some more time studying this kind of financial engineering or financial mathematics, stochastic calculus for finance by Stephen Shreve, right? A thick book with full of stochastic calculus like this, right? Like that. Yeah, if you like this, go ahead and do it. Or easier version like this, stochastic calculus for finance, binomial, chopstick, yes, pricing model, like this, right? So you can have some fun doing this. For this part, in my PhD program, I had to do this one and also this one. Arbitrage theory in continuous time. Professor Bob Goldstein was teaching us this one. Very interesting and then difficult, right? Mathematics going on. You can enjoy this kind of things in your own time, maybe. Perhaps not. This kind of training requires at least 2 years of intensive mathematics. Together with this, what do you do? Stochastic differential equation kind of things. I didn't do this one, but some people do it, right? In their financial engineering, okay, programs. Traditional ones, right? Option pricing kind of stuff. All those derivative pricing, okay? That was traditional sense of financial engineering. The thing is, after financial crisis, the regulators said that cram down, boom, don't do complicated transactions like CDO or CDO squared, whatever, right? Do some simple stuff like simple put options and call options and things like that. Otherwise, my friend working who was working at Barclays, right, in Singapore as a credit derivatives trader, okay, credit derivatives, CDS, CDO kind of things. He said after financial crisis, Andy, you know what? Our hands are tied these days because the regulators got in there, compliance, right, reg tech kind of things, compliance got in there, and then they forbid us from doing anything interesting as before. Can't do anything. So many of them got laid off and they had to move to outside, right? And had to find other job opportunities because life goes on, they have to make money somehow for their families, right? Where did they end up? Bitcoin. Blockchain. Cryptocurrencies. Those engineering kind of things, right? People keep on buying drugs. Yes, I know. Yeah. Dogecoin, you call it, right? Engineering. And then what? Data analytics. They just change their hat. And previously it was like financial engineering derivatives like this, right? And then they changed their hats. And then the AI in finance, right? Machine learning kind of things. Why don't we use this in financial market? And lo and behold, there is a book recently published by this guy. Okay? Machine learning, applied mathematics introduction. Isn't this guy? Yes, the same guy came up and published this book. Wonderful. This time he doesn't say anything about finance, of course, because he's a applied mathematician anyway. So he's introducing all these kind of mathematics, AI-related concepts, right? Classifiers, naively Bayesian classifiers or whatever, right? Trees, kind of things, over here. Interesting. Good. The thing is, the financial technologies, right? FinTech. Why don't they call it financial engineering, right? The same engineers, the same players are trying to do the same thing over there, but it's not the same thing. We also have those FinTech department here. Okay, FinTech. We have a master's program we set up, so we are proud to have that. We teach AI, right? Artificial intelligence for master's level students, right? So that's good. But we are not going into the extreme degree of derivatives because, it's forbidden, right? But data analysis part, AI-driven technologies, is there any way we can learn it and then familiarize ourselves? Yes, there are some part of it we can leverage it, okay? But at the same time, I think we have to be careful as well. Okay, so I want you to, pay attention to those kind of things, right? AI is some of the AIs are sexy and it can be used a lot, but some of them, the other parts of the AIs, maybe not necessary. Some part of it may be snake oil sales, right? So you have to be careful. You have to be discerning, okay, able to discern which one is snake oil sales and which one is not, even though they say they are using AIs, right? Here's an example. 1 year ago or 2 years ago, Shinhan AI, which is the Shinhan Bank. This is the biggest financial group in Korea, Shinhan Bank. They set up their AI company to meet the need of this fintech, right? The thing is, the CEO of that company advertised in the news article, big daily news article. And then they said, we found that our machine found out that one of the best predictors of S&P 500 return is Zimbabwe's inflation rate. Hey, what the heck is that? The journalist questioned why. And then the CEO said, we don't know why. It's a black box. And that's the beauty of this black box. And then the beauty of it is because it is not something predicted by existing human theory, or economics or psychology or whatever. But something new is picked up by the machines. So that's the pure purpose of this having AI going on. Okay, machine learning is very important and we are using it. Aren't we sexy? And a lot of the people were saying, oh, sexy. The thing is, snake oil sales, right? Why would that happen? Well, here, Zimbabwe, my friend Dr. Lee Jae-hoon, right? Lee Jae-hoon 박사님 told us about this, right? Zimbabwe's inflation rate, they experienced hyperinflation in 2008. So much so that afterwards they shut down their currency and then dollarized their currency, US dollar, right? Their inflation rate extremely high, spiking up in 2008, and the rest of the years it's like a, usual inflation rate. Very high, 2008. And in 2009, coincidentally, that was a year when the S&P 500 skyrocketed after experiencing financial crisis and returning back with the central bankers or coordinated quantitative easing policies like that, right? So lead-lag relation, right, happened coincidentally. 2008, hyperinflation in Zimbabwe, and the next year, S&P 500 went up. So historical data, if you just blindly run regressions out of it, then you will find out, that Zimbabwe inflation rate has best predictive power for the S&P 500. Such a dramatic event is predicted by that. But is this predicted, or is this relation, right? The Zimbabwe versus S&P 500, is this relation economically justifiable? No economic mechanism is there. Okay, we say this is just a purely spurious correlation. Purely spurious correlation that is found in the historical data alone, which means it will not repeat again out of sample going into the future. So you cannot use it. You should not use this kind of data, okay, in predicting future. But the machine, they say, gives us this. We don't know why. It's a black box. No, come on. People will try to sell it this way. Try to sell the snake oil in the name of black box. What's inside that black box? You have to be critically understanding it. And the best one to discern whether it is snake oil sales versus not is check whether this relation is already predicted by some theories, existing theories. The most convincing theory is economics. Is it coming from economic mechanism, supply and demand and all these kind of things, right? Predicted by economics 101. Or is it predicted by psychology, which is behavioral finance, which I'm teaching next semester, by the way, right? Human behavior human nature is there. Like I told you before, testosterone, all these kind of hormones and biological factors affect your risk aversion, right? This kind of thing will come in again and again, repeatedly, as long as you're a human being, right? Or sociology, or existing this academic nature, right? Academic standing, right? Sociology or politics or all this kind of engineerings or biologies and then physics. Is it predicted by this kind of laws, right? Then you have a goal. If you found out that kind of relation in the historical data, then you have a goal that's useful for forecasting in the future. Okay? If it is not, if what you found in your historical data is not supported by any of these theory bases over there, no, we call it spurious correlation. Even though the machine found out, right? Good that the machine found out. But afterwards, the higher level thinking is like, we have to throw it out because it is not predicted by other theories, right? So that's something you have to be able to do. Of course, in AlphaGo kind of an idea is that, well, the AI can bring some totally new prediction, which is not backed up by any of the existing theory, okay? But that kind of thing is not, Zimbabwe's inflation rate kind of thing is not, something like that, okay? Usually what the AI can help is that, this thing is not predicted by existing economic theory, rational theory. Maybe some of the human behaviors, right? Those psychology part, a sociology part, can be related to this. Then you start to investigate whether this sociology or psychology is predicting that kind of relations. But to the extent is, some part of it, a lot of the correlation that you find will not still be, supported by the other existing theories, right? So you have to be, critically understanding the AI finding over there. A lot of drug salesmen will be there in the name of engineering, in the name of something you feel you are lack of. Oh my God, I don't know math, right? That's that, right? Very interesting thing over here. And then quant 투자, right? Quant investment or all these kind of things, right? Quant investment, sorry to bring this non-English version of it, but quant investment, all these kind of things, you may be interested, right? Isn't it related to financial engineering like Black-Scholes or something like that? The answer is no. This has to do with behavioral finance that I teach, in the next semester, right? So come and enjoy my class, right? Has a lot to do with psychology. And quant, isn't it something to be like quantitative and then number? Yeah, I'm doing number in psychology as well. Psychology is not just drawing pictures, right? Or like, or doing random things. Analyzing your dream. No, come on. The psychology these days is about quantifying all those, your state of mind, using your language, the big data approach. The language is the mirror of your mind, so that whatever you speak, we transcribe it. Automatic transcription is going on, and then we analyze your language using simple text mining technologies. Nothing too difficult, right? Nothing too difficult. Still, it is an engineering. So that's why it's kind of the engineering flavor is there. To be able to do that, you need a solid understanding of calculus, linear algebra, all these kind of things as well, of course, right? But in behavioral finance class, I don't require you the linear algebra stuff, but it's just, using this kind of programs, right? So that's there. And then the engineering, right? Emotion recognition, this kind of things, right? Facial expressions or speech recognition, or all these kind of things, right? Have been studied in engineering departments until now. And then they have been developing a field called social signal processing, which is, quantifying all those facial expressions using your video analysis or picture analysis or voice file analysis, kind of things like that, right? A lot of things have been developed by the engineers over the last couple of decades. Just economists have been blind about this kind of approaches, so that they say, oh, facial expression analysis, that's not economics, inferior. That's not mathematics, inferior. Take it out of my site. But come on, isn't that arrogance? That's what I'm saying, right? And then the engineers, that the economists have been admiring mathematicians and those engineers, and then the engineers have been looking at this. So who has been lazy? This one, we have to pay much more attention over here. So FinTech or those analytics, right? Data analytics kind of things, big data analysis kind of things, has to be associated with this kind of things, right? Social signal processing, to read the mind of your customers and clients and all those, portfolio managers or whatever it could be, right? This has to be applied to finance. But interesting thing is, as I said before, economists have been blind to this kind of approaches. This is recently developed ones, right? We have to incorporate this kind of things. And then about big data, using of big data approaches, right? They say big data approach is not needed too much in finance. What? You may say, yeah. Aren't you talking about fintech or something like that? But 이재훈 박사님 told me about this, right? Big data approach, the big data approach, to be able to use it, we need the number of observations, like millions of billions of observations. Okay, you need a data point. Okay, observation data point of millions of data points for a time series. Okay, million, which means if you want to have a GDP growth rate, right? For example, GDP growth rate, you need a million data points to study. You throw it into big data approach. Okay, millions of observations of Korea's GDP growth rate. Did we live million years, right? Ever since the dinosaurs era, right? 공룡 천만 년, like 100만 년 또리 이런 거. We haven't. Human history is just like 5,000 years. the frequency of GDP data. Maximum, that means 5,000, right? We just pick the GDP growth rate every year. And that we have been accumulating that data over the last couple of 100 years or something, right? We don't have enough data to play with big data approaches. That's the reality. Okay, you see what I'm saying? And then Robert Merton, okay, Nobel Prize winner in Harvard or MIT, he once said it, right? Those black swan events, right? The huge negative stock return, market crash. It's not modeled by existing financial engineering model because we are using normal distribution, but the tail is too thin, right? Whereas the tail event is much more frequently occurring. And then to be able to judge whether, to judge whether this model is really working or not, we need 1 million years of observations or something like that. But we just been living 100 years or something, the financial market data. So that's the challenge that we are facing right now. So there's a pitfall, huge pitfall, that if you are savvy at engineering, you will already realize, a lot of it is, it's like there's a lot of pitfall that we have to be careful about, right? Financial engineering, okay? Or big data approach, right? GDP or kind of things. I told you, millions of observations you needed. Of course, I'm not saying that this is completely useless, big data approach. As long as you have millions of observations, it is worth doing it. When can we have, for what setting do we have millions of observations in finance? We call it microstructure data, okay? If you have microstructure level data, then big data approach is something you can leverage out of it. What is it? Microstructure, intraday stock trading data, okay? Basically, Samsung Electronics, right? Big stocks. It is traded every millisecond, right? In high frequency traders, they're fighting for the advantage of 1/1 millionth of a second, right? 1 millionth of a second advantage gives you, money, okay? So if you try to sample the data out of it, the data is accumulated every millisecond, 1000분의 1초 단위로. It's like, so you have a huge data of microstructure level. In Korea, 거래소, KRX, they have this data in Korean financial market. US, they have it. Every country have their own microstructure level data. There you can have billions and zillions of data observation for each stock. So that's where you can leverage the technique of big data. All right, a lot more, and then plus a lot more, daily level, maybe, but not that much, right? But the microstructure level. So that's where the big data really takes off. Other than that, it's like, it is useful to find out unnoticed pattern. Okay, historically, neoclassical economists have been very snobbish, and it's like only the economics will tell you. The rest of the thing is useless. But the big data can tell you that, the rest of the things is also useful. And then you can critically figure out whether it is backed up by psychology, like behavioral finance or not. Okay? In that sense, AI is useful. But other than that, you have to be careful. Okay? And then here I show you this data-driven science and engineering by the professors in University of Washington. Stephen Brunton, he's a Princeton math graduate, and then in engineering, right? It seems like there have been using this kind of big data approaches in weather pattern recognition or all these kind of things, because they have a huge amount of data sampling, right? Millions and billions of data sampling in scientific observatories and things like that. Maybe that's why this kind of data-driven engineering is popular in those departments. But in economics and finance, right? We don't have that much data. That's all that I'm trying to say. Okay. So having said that, there's a pitfalls and there's advantages you may be interested in data analytics majors or all those studies. One thing for sure, right? One thing for sure, if you want to, get familiarize yourself, right? Then you will have to study yourself, self-study, linear algebra kind of things by taking courses. You cannot just gloss your eyes and say, that makes sense. A couple of pages. No, you need hard training of doing it, spending your time doing it. But I don't say you have to, waste your time too much. The most important thing right now is getting your job experience first. Maybe some of your jobs, you don't need those kind of math at all and still make billions of dollars, right? Okay. So that's that. So I hope you like my message. So good luck and then see you next time. Bye-bye.